When first starting college, everyone is worried about completing homework, completing assignments, going to class, making good grades, and all the other things that come with the college lifestyle. We normally just try to get through the school year day by day and focus on all these assignments we're given and try to complete them to the best of our ability. But do we ever try to stop and think about how these tasks we're completing are affecting our emotional health? I've researched the topic of emotional wellness and I've found varying information about this topic. Today I would like to concentrate specifically on anxiety and depression and the treatment options for each. In this speech, I will address the definition and symptoms of anxiety and depression, treatment options for college students dealing with anxiety, and treatment options for college students dealing with depression. Many people have heard of anxiety and depression, but do we really understand what these things mean? So what are the symptoms and definitions of anxiety and depression? According to bestcolleges.com, generalized anxiety is defined as a constant, severe anxiety that interferes with day-to-day activities. According to psychiatry.org, definition of depression is a common and serious medical illness that negatively affects how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. Anxiety symptoms include irritability, headaches, shortness of breath, and frequent upset stomach. Symptoms of depression include changes of appetite, loss of interest in activities you once enjoyed, thoughts of suicide, and loss of energy. When dealing with anxiety, you may need some extra help. If you have anxiety, there are many treatment options available on and off campus. According to health.harvard.edu, it states that many colleges offer resources to help students navigate with the initial transition to campus and cope with stress. Some people dealing with anxiety may need extra help, such as therapy and medications. I myself have been dealing with anxiety for many years, and over the past year or so, it's gotten very difficult. So I've started meeting with a therapist in order to better understand how to cope with my anxiety. There are many people not only dealing with anxiety, but also depression. There are many treatment options available for depression, both on and off campus as well. According to affordablecollegesonline.org, the National Alliance on Mental Health states that almost 73% of students with mental health conditions experience a health crisis on campus, but only 34% reported that their college didn't know about it. They also state that there are the need for mental health professionals more, so there are more psychologists and psychiatrists on campus to meet those needs. There are more treatment options for depression, such as psychotherapy, neuromodulation, and medications. By learning more about anxiety and depression, I hope that you understand how big of an issue this is on college campuses. In this speech, I talked about the definition and symptoms of anxiety and depression, the effects and treatment options for anxiety, and the treatment options for depression. In this short amount of time, I hope that you learned about anxiety and depression and that you have checked on your emotional wellness after realizing all of these tasks that you completed.
Many people struggling with anxiety or depression may not realize that there is an all-natural and potentially easy way to improve their mental health before turning to medication. No, it isn't a magic herbal supplement. The secret is in your own body. Exercise. But exercise is for making my body healthy, you might ask. How does that have anything to do with my mental health? Well, according to Harvard Medical School, exercise lowers the levels of stress hormones in your body, such as epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, norepinephrine, and cortisol. These hormones are only meant to be present in the body for short periods of time, and when they linger, they can cause many health problems, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, weight gain, and emotional distress. Exercise also triggers the release of another family of 3 hormones, known as endorphins. The name endorphin is a shortening of the term endogenous morphine, meaning morphine that is naturally produced in the body. They're called this due to the fact that these hormones structurally resemble morphine and bind to your brain's opioid receptors, causing feelings of euphoria and pain relief similar to opioids. This means that the fabled runner's high is quite real, and exercise is a way to get high without any of the risks involved in using drugs. If, for whatever reason, you don't see yourself as the type of person to sign up for the gym and set up a workout regimen for yourself, something as simple as walking is enough to trigger the release of endorphins. Everyone knows that diet is just as important as exercise when it comes to building a healthy body, but diet is also just as important for your mental health. The gastrointestinal tract is lined with over 100 million neuroreceptors, which is nothing compared to the 86 to 100 billion estimated in the brain, but far more than any other area in the body. The neuroreceptors in the GI tract are actually directly connected to the brain, leading to it becoming known as the second brain. This becomes important when we learn who we share our gut with. Humans have many unique biological advantages that we developed over our evolutionary history that allowed us to become the dominant species on the planet, such as sweating, being able to regenerate stamina while walking. But one of the lesser known ones is that we developed a symbiotic relationship with countless genera of bacteria. These bacteria live in the gastrointestinal tract. And in fact, the number of bacterial cells in your gut outnumbers the amount of human cells in your entire body by roughly 10 times, meaning you're technically more bacteria than you are human. Allowing these bacteria to live inside of us offers many different advantages. According to Johns Hopkins University, they can digest food humans otherwise couldn't. They assist our own body's immune system in fighting pathogens. They produce vitamins that our bodies need but can't make on their own and otherwise would have to obtain through food. And more relevant to this discussion, they can produce hormones and neurotransmitters. Not everyone has the same species of bacteria living inside their intestines. Different kinds of bacteria eat different foods, so which bacteria live in your gut is determined by which foods you eat. It just so happens that the healthiest foods for humans are also the preferred foods for the bacteria most beneficial for us, and foods that are unhealthy to humans are the preferred foods for bacteria that contribute nothing in return for living in our bodies, or worse, actively harm us. There are some species of bacteria that live in our guts that actually manufacture and release the neurotransmitters dopamine and serotonin, the two neurotransmitters involved in making us feel happy. When released by the bacteria, these neurotransmitters are absorbed by the neurons in the GI tract and travel directly to the brain. On average, 95% of all serotonin and 50% of dopamine present in the body are actually produced in the gut by these bacteria and not the brain. The preferred foods of these bacteria are foods commonly found in the Mediterranean diet, such as vegetables, fruit, unprocessed grains, and fish and seafood. The foods these bacteria can't eat are processed artificial food and foods high in sugar and salt. Not coincidentally, these are also the healthiest and unhealthiest foods for your body, respectively. What we learn from all this is that the body and mind are inextricably linked, which shouldn't be surprising considering that your mind is inside of your body, and that keeping your body healthy through exercise and proper diet are essential to maintaining a high standard of mental health.
The college transition is exciting, but it could also be pretty scary. As an incoming freshman, moving 4 hours away from home for college was really scary for me, but I was also hopeful and excited to start the next chapter of my life. However, it was also really easy for me to quickly lose that hopeful thinking and retreat to myself. This now being my second college transition, being a transfer student, I have learned a few tips on how to successfully make that college transition and how to prioritize self-care at the same time. Today, I want to share with you the importance of emotional wellness, why you should get involved on campus, and most importantly, why you should prioritize self-care. College is full of new stressors and new responsibilities. Learning about emotional wellness as a freshman in college is essential for a successful college experience. First, I would like to stress the importance of emotional and mental wellness. The first year of college is a time of growth and development, a transition period. That being said, it can be really, really hard. With any change comes uncertainty. In a survey report on mental health by College Students Speak, found that an overwhelming majority of survey respondents said they're no longer in college because of a mental health related reason. In your first year of college, it can be easy to become unmotivated and feel overwhelmed by the college transition. And according to Suicide Prevention Resource Center, mental health issues often first appear between the ages of 18 and 24. Being that this is typically the age of college students, it's important to know how to combat mental illness and practice emotional wellness. Getting involved in campus activities and practicing self-care are two ways for a new college student to maintain emotional and mental wellness. That being said, we are not meant to do the college experience alone. Colleges have many opportunities and organization options available. John D. Faber, professor of higher education at a college in Williamsburg, Virginia, claims more involved students reported greater development in moving through autonomy towards interdependence and establishing and clarifying purpose. Getting involved on campus promotes social communication and purpose-driven participation. When participating on campus, find your own balance. My first semester, I was taking 21 hours and wanted to be involved in everything. I limited myself to 2 extracurriculars. I joined the rowing team and participated in the BCM. I thought participating in only 2 things would be okay, but when one of them is a college sport, on top of 21 hours, it probably wasn't the smartest idea for me. Finding your own balance and routine is so important for maintaining your emotional wellness and having a successful college experience. When you do get involved, remember to do so safely. Be sure to follow your campus's guidelines for the coronavirus to make sure you keep yourself and others safe. Apart from physical safety, actively prioritizing your emotional well-being is just as important. Lastly, I want to share with you how to prioritize self-care. Many of us may be balancing both a heavy course load and also a job. Some of us are student athletes or heavily involved on campus. It's often hard to recognize your own needs and get away from that busy schedule and loads of homework. We need to remember to set aside time strictly for yourself. Self-care looks different for everyone. For me, journaling and meditation help. For others, it might be listening to music, playing the guitar, playing sports, or expressing themselves through art. For someone else, it may be simply being outside and alone with their thoughts. In therapist Lori Moffett's TED Talk, Igniting a Self-Care Revolution, she explains that we are better enabled to fulfill our responsibilities when our psychological and physical needs are met. Not only does practicing self-care help us be productive, but practicing self-care also helps better familiarize with ourselves and our emotions and makes it easier to recognize the signs of mental illness early on. If you do recognize signs of mental illness within yourself or a friend, don't be afraid to ask and find help. Our campus has a university counseling center that provides a variety of services depending on your needs. In 2020, our college experience is going to look different than we've originally thought, especially for incoming freshmen who are experiencing college for the first time. It is important to remember that we are not in this alone. It is also important to remember how to maintain our emotional wellness. First, we are to recognize the importance of emotional wellness. Surround yourself with others and get involved on campus, activities, and organizations. Most importantly, find balance and prioritize your own self-care first. Recognizing the importance of balance within your life and actively working on it will positively affect your college experience and initial college transition. College isn't just about the coursework and getting a degree. It's also supposed to be the best years of our lives.
ADHD in college students can sometimes be the defining factor in if a student excels in their studies or flunks completely. All of the information was provided through research and study of the topic. ADHD can affect the emotional wellness of students by lowering motivation, the inability to control focus, and the mental and cognitive downsides of the disorder. The AACP states that most people with ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder are diagnosed at a young age due to the signs being easier to identify. However, in some cases, people are not diagnosed with the disorder until later in their academic career, which is college. College students with diagnosed ADHD should have access to a support system focused on helping better understand its effects and how to cope with them. ADHD causes lower levels of motivation to the point of wanting to accomplish nothing. Some days, the drive to get out of bed and contribute to society is gone, much in the same way as seasonal depression. When given several choices or assignments in this case, the most common outcome is complete loss of motivation, leading to the work not being completed. The ability to focus on a single task without distraction is also heavily impaired in college students with ADHD. A student's mind with ADHD speeds through countless thoughts at a time, causing forgetfulness of the current task or important future events or deadlines. With constant thoughts racing through a person with ADHD's mind, it's also easy to get lost up and caught up in all of the assignments and important things you have coming up on your schedule. With this, it's possible that the person with ADHD becomes highly stressed out and anxious to the point of intense procrastination to put off the feelings of stress. From my own experience, I have known some students to write important things down in a notebook or app immediately so they don't forget it later. Distraction is constantly present during classes or studying, and once distracted, it is nearly impossible to regain focus. The mental state and cognitive abilities of those with this disorder are much different than the average person as well. Research conducted in the National Library of Medicine shows that college students with ADHD actually experience greater psychological and emotional difficulties than other students. Students dealing with ADHD have a naturally lower interest in completing tasks and contributing to normal daily routines, which to the outside eye, this is mostly normalized as being lazy. Lower levels of motivation, the inability to focus, and a changed mental and cognitive state are all attributed to ADHD. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder in college students severely impacts the student's emotional wellness, but with proper medical treatment, its effects can be controlled or mostly eliminated.
In college, it's safe to say that everybody's stressed out. To an extent. Early mornings and late nights, fast-paced learning, papers, exams, fitting in, it all pays a toll. As an incredibly stressed out individual myself, I decided that doing my second speech for my communications class about stress would be really beneficial. This led me through a roller coaster of chemical functions, lab studies, and spiritual websites. Stress is a mix of mental uncertainty and chemical compounds that the human body reacts to negatively and can be overcome through various methods of self-help. Stress comes from the unknown. It has many harsh effects on a body, but can be reduced and managed. This mental and emotional state can be compared to dominoes ready to fall. You see, stress is a chain reaction. According to the organization Changing Minds, it is often a result of threat, fear, and uncertainty. If I get a bad grade on this class, how badly will I suffer? If I have a bad day at work today, will I lose my job? What happens if I don't know the answer to a question on my next test? When stimulated by stress, the hypothalamus in the brain releases corticotropin-releasing hormone, CRH for short. The released CRH triggers another release of adrenocorticotropic-releasing hormone, or ACTH, into the bloodstream. ACTH acts on the adrenal gland, which then, of course, produces adrenaline. The production of adrenaline has many effects on the body, which are often shown through stress. There are 19 common symptoms of stress, broken up into 3 categories. The first category is the physical effects. The adrenaline produced under stress triggers the body's flight or fight response. Blood vessels tighten up, it becomes hard to breathe, and sweat pours out of sweat glands. For example, do you hold your breath or rub your hands on your pants when thinking about an upcoming test? I know I do. The Mayo Clinic expresses that symptoms of stress are often mistaken for illness. Fatigue and bad appetites may not be the common cold that you think you're catching, but instead stress levels that are far too high. Next time you feel any symptoms that are being discussed today, reflect on how tough your week has been and your lingering deadlines. You'd be surprised just how often is stress. Stress has many emotional effects too. A person that is stressed out will often feel hopeless of the future. Hopelessness leads to depression and a lack of motivation. Look, when going gets tough, I don't want to study and work out, let alone get out of bed. But deadlines, a common cause of stress, often make people feel overwhelmed, especially if he or she has had a lack of motivation to work. Feeling overwhelmed and hopeless calls for irritability, anxiety, and restlessness. And these emotional and physical problems are hard to handle and often are the reason behind behavioral changes. To cope with their stress, a person may abuse drugs, alcohol, or tobacco. And these activities are highly addictive. And I don't need to explain just how dangerous they are. Lack of motivation will also make a person want to exercise less. This too is particularly dangerous, but I'll explain why later on. Social withdrawal and angry outbursts are other outcomes of stress and depression that it causes. When stressed, the easiest thing to do is crawl into a ball and lay still for 15 days. And I better not be interrupted either. But while stress is a hopeless feeling, there are several ways to adjust from it. Stress can be managed, handled, and reduced. As I previously mentioned, deadlines and workloads are common factors of stress. To remove the threat of heavy workloads on deadlines, spend a little bit of time every day working on each task, step by step. Even studying flashcards for 15 minutes about a day will completely change how you think about the subject. Everything becomes easier to understand, and it's almost like second nature from that point on. To remove uncertainty, plan ahead. Make a weekly and daily calendar with time slots for each assignment and other parts of the day. You see, I'm so impressed with my roommate here at Southeastern because he has hardly any stress from school. When something is assigned, he gets it done that day. He reads ahead and he keeps everything organized. For him, there's no uncertainty when it comes to school, and I applaud him for that. Meditation is one of the best ways to reduce or remove stress. According to MindWorks, it gives us a better understanding of our emotions and mental space to problem solve. This simple activity actively reverses the effects of stress on the body, like steady breathing and relaxed muscles in the body. Meditation creates mindfulness. Mindfulness helps you focus on the now. It'll make you realize that the past has happened and the future hasn't happened yet. Focusing on the present makes a person less concerned on past events because, well, it already happened. Instead of dwelling on it, somebody that does this will focus on how to adjust. At the same time, focusing on the now will make them less concerned on the future. They'll be too busy on tasks at hand and following their plan to focus about what happens next. If stressful situations can't be minimized and stress can't be reduced, the best thing to do is just handle it through exercise. Exercise builds stress resistance. When you exercise, you actually apply physical stress to your body. And because of this, you subconsciously practice working through the fight or flight response. Even if you don't want to exercise and are just forced to, it'll still reduce stress. A scientific study found that rats that were forced to exercise found the same stress-resistant benefits as those who exercised willingly. The study had 4 groups of rats, one that exercised on their own, one that was forced to exercise on their own pace, and one that was forced to exercise at a steady pace, and lastly, one that didn't exercise at all. Then after a recovery, the rats were put into a stressful situation, and scientists placed the rats in dark boxes and shone bright lights onto the rats. Rather than hiding in dark corners of the box, the rats that exercised, except for the group that had to exercise at a steady pace, adapted quickly and explored the light. Enough about rats though. Exercise is crucial to stress management. As a recap on what we've just discussed, stress is a chain reaction that starts with made-up scenarios, leaving several effects on one's mind, body, and behavior, and can easily be reduced. The best way to reduce and respond to stress include planning, working ahead, meditating, and exercise. Hopefully, you can apply this information to your own lives, feel better, and push back those gray hairs. Thank you.
Emotional support animals have become somewhat of a hot topic in recent years. We even have a few here at Southeastern. As my group and I have spent hours researching how college students deal with mental illnesses such as anxiety and stress, I have learned that emotional support animals are some of the more popular decision. Even more so, a close friend of mine here on campus has an emotional support cat named Stella. Some of you may have seen her venturing around Ascension Hall. I am here today to show you how if you are struggling with any form of stress, anxiety, or depression, an emotional support animal may be beneficial to you. Emotional support animals are proven to reduce the levels of stress and anxiety in college students, help prevent suicides, and allow for students to cope with the pressures of college life. Many of us can relate to feeling the stress of college, especially in these difficult times. But one way to combat that stress maybe by the hands, or rather paws, of man's best friend. Starting college today is stressful for any teen, especially if one chooses to go to a college far from home. So having a companion of sorts can help to ease that stress and help them to manage their anxiety and fears that come with college by allowing them to feel like they have someone supporting them and that they are not alone. Emotional support animals, especially ones that have been with their owner for many years or are a family pet, give their person a great deal of stress relief. A study done by NYU, New York University, reports that 60% of college students reported such high stress that they couldn't finish their school tasks, and the majority of their stress was triggered by school. These emotional support animals, sometimes called comfort animals, are known to reduce cortisol levels, which allows for a reduction in stress levels, combat loneliness, and even go as far as to reduce blood pressure. A Center City-based therapist named Madeline May says that depression, loneliness, and anxiety, they're on the rise on college campuses, and even if you don't have one of these diagnosed illnesses, transitioning can be hard. And even though she has only written one prescription for an emotional support animal, she believes that it could help college students by tapping into sensory experience. Not only do these companion animals help to reduce stress and anxiety in college students, but they also help those who are suffering from severe depression and suicidal thoughts. With the rough transition from high school to college, it takes a toll on students' mental health, and those with previous mental disorders tend to be struck hardest, leading them down a dark path. In the past, colleges and universities have taken action by forcing students to leave campus and go home. But as times change, they have chosen a more beneficial path: ESAs, also known as emotional support animals. A 2015 study done by the American Health Association found that out of 17,000 students from 40 different colleges who were surveyed, 10% of them had seriously considered committing suicide. According to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, in 2018, suicide was the second leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 10 and 34, which includes the ages of the majority of college students. With the help of these comfort companions, that can be changed. One woman, who chose not to give her name due to fear of prejudice from future employers, has said that having her emotional support animal provides her with a security blanket and makes her feel that she is not alone, because you have each other and you take care of them and they take care of you. This feeling of not being alone and having something that relies on you is something that many hold on to and stops them from taking their own life. After learning about how important emotional support animals can be, for some of us, let us look at some of the ways that emotional support animals allow students to have a successful college career. Having an ESA can help college students in their transition into college and help them to cope with the everyday pressures that come with being a full-time student. Dogs, in particular, can allow one to cope with life as a college student. As many dogs need lots of exercise, it forces their owner to get out of their room and exercise with their dogs, which can also help to manage the weight fluctuations that come as a side effect of stress, as well as allow them to interact with other people. Because I don't know about all of you, but anytime I see a dog on the street, I have to go run up to it and pet it. When students get out of their dorms and interact with others, it helps them to foster close personal relationships with other people, which can help to ease anxiety and stop that feeling of being alone. This helps combat depression as well, because exercising and socializing increases dopamine levels, which is the part of your brain that signals happiness and motivation. Having a fluffy companion to accompany one through their college life is proven to help students be more successful. Emotional support animals have helped many students deal with the pressures of college life, whether it be in reducing stress and anxiety, dealing with severe depression and suicidal thoughts, or helping students cope with the everyday pressures of college life. If you do not have your own emotional support animal, I would recommend going to volunteer at an animal shelter, or if you have pets at home, take some time and go visit with them. One slobbery kiss will have you smiling from ear to ear.